Before today's show begins, I want to send my regrets to the friends and the family of comicstorian. He died 2 days ago. Comicstorian was a great content creator who used to narrate great comics. He was so good. He didn't just narrate them. He created the world in your mind and your imagination. He wasn't a content creator who spoke about, the kind of culture wars that we have today. He was a positive soul. He loved comics. I'm absolutely shocked to my core that we've lost him in some kind of accident. Comicstorian, who died 2 days ago. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X, and now at Movies TV Mad 3 on TikTok. So today is going to be a very, very interesting video because we're going to talk about Russell T Davies coming out and saying he was brought back to run Doctor Who to bring young people under 30 into the viewership of the show. And oh my friend, have you failed? Was it a good idea to bring a 61-year-old dude to attract the young? Now, someone was saying on Twitter, why do they want the young? Well, it's the job of any market to bring in a younger audience or a younger consumer because they've got money. They've got money to spare. And they would spend on merch and DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks and just gaming and everything. So that's why they're always looking for a young audience. Now, after we're done with this subject, we're going to talk about the future of Matt Reeves' The Batman and why I believe that Robert Pattinson's The Batman is going to become the DCU Batman, and that's why we haven't heard anything about Brave and the Bold. We'll get there because there's a lot of interesting rumours coming out about that as well. But firstly, let's talk about Russell T Davies coming out and saying he was brought back to bring under 30s to watch Doctor Who. And it hasn't worked out, has it? Because here's the thing. Gen Z are a very different generation. They're not the same generation that, came in to watch Doctor Who when RTD brought it back in 2005. Now, what RTD did, now it's interesting actually, I think if RTD was as original and as passionate and, his heart was in the right place like it was in 2005, I think Gen Z would have come and knock it. But all we've seen is a repeat of what he's done before, gaslighting audiences, and Gen Z are simply too intelligent to understand that. Now, Gen Z don't really watch television. Gen Z don't really go to the cinema, but this industry doesn't really understand Gen Z. And I'll tell you who else doesn't understand Gen Z, RTD. Because RTD thought by bringing in an actor from a very Gen Z popular streaming show, Sex Education, that it was as simple as that. But the barometer has changed in terms of attracting this current generation to watch your entertainment. And the BBC and Disney Plus and Bad Wolf and RTD himself have failed to attract this demographic. The demographic they were very desperate to bring in. We heard them talk about TikTok. We had Millie herself in an interview saying, oh, the TikTok generation are going to love it. They haven't loved it. They haven't bothered with it. I don't think Gen Z are that interested in Doctor Who in the first place. But if you're a bit bolder, maybe they would have come in. But more than likely, it would have been very hard to bring in a Gen Z audience, which is what they really wanted to do. Chibnall was tasked in bringing in a younger audience. Maybe, just maybe, he slightly succeeded, not much, but a little bit more than RTD did. And they've been very, very complacent in attempting to bring in a younger audience. It is very important to bring young audiences and young consumers into your business because older people my age are getting triggered. Why do you need a younger audience? What do you think all the people who came in to watch New Who in 2005 were? He was tasked to modernise Doctor Who and make it a mainstream show, because it never was that. He did that, he attracted a younger generation, and that younger generation grew up with the show. It's a bit like the prequels. It's a bit like Smallville. Young people who never read a comic book before came in to watch the pilot of Smallville, and they never went away. And they created a new generation of Superman fans, and it was genius. And RTD did this with New Who. He did a very good job. But this time, he's failed because he's a 61-year-old dude. He was around 40 or in his late 30s when he was developing and running New Who. He was young enough to take on a few challenges. He understood what was needed. He simply doesn't understand that anymore. So for him to come out now after he's failed to bring in a younger audience of under 30s to say, well, my job was to bring in a younger audience. Well, you haven't. Where are they? Where is this younger audience? I don't see them in my comments. I don't see them in all the Doctor Who pages and chat rooms that I'm on. I have to do this. I have to know fan sentiment because I'm running a platform. I'm a content creator, not a successful one, but it's still important that I know these things, whether you're successful or not. You need your ear by the heartbeat of fandoms. All fandoms, you know, not just kind of people with one view, and not all people with just my view as well. I think that's very important. And I haven't seen this new audience they've been chasing. You failed, RTD, because creatively you gaslit your audience. You thought that's what would attract Gen Z. You use Gen Z references. You know, we hear this new Doctor saying like things like honey and little terms, and you know, Millie using the term Stilton and things like that. It hasn't worked because there's no foundations under what they've done. There's no way Gen Z were ever going to be attracted to this, because this is a recycled version of what he did in 2005. He is repeating himself. He's offering nothing new. He's offering nothing new for people of our ages, let alone people under 30. The simple thing is that RTD does not understand people under 30. How could he? He's 61 bloody years old. It's not possible. Now, I understand them a little bit more because I have nephews and nieces, because I'm on the internet and I talk to people of all ages, so I get the younger generation and I try and get on everybody's level. I don't remain on my level. I try and understand where everybody's coming from. I actually like Gen Z. I like their compassion for the Palestinian people and the Israeli people as well. They understand it's the Israeli government have put both types of people under, you know, in danger, and they're so passionate about that cause. And I think that's the kind of generation Gen Z are. They care about the world they live in. They care about the world around them. And that's important. And RTD hasn't dealt with any issues that Gen Z would be interested in. Because if you think LGBTQ, you know, kind of social commentary is something that's going to attract Gen Z, you're wrong. If you want to represent gay people and trans people, you've got to do your due diligence and you've got to be genuine. He could have had a gay man, I said it the other day, he could have a gay man as a companion. You know, this doctor, this gay doctor could have had a gay, complex love story with his companion. And it would have been interesting, because what we saw between him and the other guy, a rogue, that wasn't complicated. It didn't feel earned. Everything since RTD's come back with RTD2 has been surface level. And I suspected this, and I suspect the same thing with his double two-part finale. Don't be surprised if it's a rip-off of Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. That's what I think we're going to get, just a rip-off. He's got nothing left in the tank, and as I say, he has no idea how to attract an under-30s audience. If you're serious about bringing a younger audience to Doctor Who, You need someone. You need a talented person, whatever community they represent, and you need them to be in their mid to early 20s. You need someone who's around 20 to 25, someone who gets this crowd, because he doesn't. So you've got to be interesting. You've got to be pioneering. But most importantly, you know, Doctor Who is a generational story. It's a youthful story because it's about a being that regenerates. That's a brilliant kind of idea to attract a younger audience. But RTD2 hasn't felt like something that's regenerated. It seems like a very, very angry man, has been screaming to the heavens and hoping that Gen Z would hear by, oh, it's so Bridgerton. Really? That's your attempt to bring in a under 30s audience? It's so Bridgerton 3 fucking times in one episode. Or calling a man a Stilton. These are your genuine attempts. You could have done something special. You could have created a Doctor that attracted this type of audience. With Ncuti Gatwa. It's not Ncuti's fault that creatively you're incompetent now. You wasn't, but you are now. It's not Millie's fault you're creatively incompetent in terms of her companion. So you were tasked, you actually admit that you were tasked to bring in a younger audience and you failed to do it. It's as simple as that. And I am staggered by modern day entertainment when they come out and admit these things, because everyone's going to be looking at him and saying, you promised to bring us a younger audience. One of the interesting things about RTD, and I spotted this when he came back, was that you can tell he's had work done to his face. You can tell he's trying to look like a younger man, because it's all about saying, hey, I'm youthful. Come in, Gen Z, and watch. I'm a happening showrunner. You're not. You're 61 years old, dude. As I say, you don't know how to attract this audience. I think it's hilarious that he's come out and admitted it, because really, he's coming out and admitting that he's failed. And after season 2, what happens? There's only 2 seasons here, even though he's planned for a 3rd. Someone's going to have to put their arms around this old man and say, mate, it's time you moved on. This is what they did with the first Doctor. He got ill, and he couldn't do it. And they had to gently say to him, I'm sorry, you can't do this anymore. You're too old. You can't do it. You're too weak. You're getting ill. You're holding up the production and you're putting your life in danger as well. Thank you for what you did, but it's time you moved on. And I think someone has to really do that with RTD. And if they don't, the situation is going to get from bad to worse, because he really doesn't get it. He really doesn't understand this situation. He has failed. You have failed to bring in a younger audience. And it is so important to bring in a younger audience, because you need them. What you need, ideally, is us and the younger audience. You need different demos all coming in to watch Doctor Who. It needs to be mainstream. What's happened is the older audience that used to watch RTD1 have come back. Some have dropped out, which is bringing around 4.5 to 4 million, sometimes even under 4 million consolidated viewers. The last episode, Dot and Double, before... What did I say? Did I say Dob and Bubble? Dot and Bubble only got 4 million exactly, because the consolidated viewers didn't tally up. The iPlayer viewers for Dot and Bubble wasn't good at all, because the marketing didn't attract the audience. People could see it was going to be another Doctor-like episode. It seemed fucking stupid, and people weren't interested. But the numbers haven't been great. And it's clear by the numbers. You can even tell by the numbers that, that the young are not coming in. His mission has not been accomplished. Now, normally, you would fire someone who hasn't managed to do what they said they were going to do, not only creatively, but bring in this under 30s audience in. Unfortunately, he's one of the bosses. He's a huge shareholder at Bad Wolf, the production company that is co-producing this Doctor Who production. So you can't actually fire him. He has to stand up and admit that he did a great job for 4 or 5 years on Doctor Who. But his time has passed. We We don't need Chibnall, we don't need Moffat, we don't need RTD, we need a younger showrunner with younger, diverse writers who are talented. That's what Doctor Who needs, and unless it gets it, we're going to lose this show. RTD was wrong for this return. We didn't see it. We thought the old RTD was coming back. He was probably laughing at us as we were celebrating. Well, who's laughing now? RTD. Coming up next, let's talk about the future of Matt Reeves, the Batman. Now, let's talk about the future of Matt Reeves, the Batman. Now, something struck me months and months ago, quite interesting, when James Gunn said that the Arkham Asylum, the Batman spin-off, would now be part of DC Universe. Well, that's interesting, and Matt Reeves would be a producer on that. That didn't make sense to me. And there's been a lot of rumours. There's rumours coming out now that Matt Reeves is getting notes for the Batman 2 from DC Studios, which is also very, very interesting. So I've come to a huge revelation that the Batman 2 and Brave and the Bold are the same movie. I've come to the realization and revelation that Robert Pattinson will be the DC Universe Batman. And not many people are going to believe me. Fans of the Batverse, of, Matt Reeves, the Batverse, will be very angry about this, but I think this is exactly what's going to happen. Because James Gunn doesn't want competing universes. It's very, very interesting. What does this mean for DC Elseworlds? Well, not very, very much. So we know the Penguin is kind of a sequel to the Batman. Looking forward to seeing that. So, yes, that's my assertion. I think that Brave and the Bold and the Batman 2 are the same movie, and it will be part of DC Universe. Have you noticed that we haven't heard any development in terms of Brave and the Bold? I've always found this very suspicious, how nothing's going on with that movie. And let's say if I'm not far from the truth and the Batman 2 and Brave and the Bold are the same movie, does Andres Muschietti still get to direct this movie? No. Would Matt Reeves get to direct this movie? I think it would be very, very logical to, to take that leap. Because as I say, it's very interesting that the Arkham Asylum spin-off is now part of DC Universe, the DCU. If I'm so far from the truth, I don't think that Arkham Asylum would be a DCU project. So I think we are heading to something where the Batman 2 and Brave and the Bold are the same movie. And it sounds a bit out there. It sounds like something that Matt Reeves wouldn't be a part of. But why would he allow his Arkham Asylum spin-off to become DCU? Also agreeing, well, he would get an automatic producer's credit because it was originally his show. Why would he allow James Gunn to take that series for DCU? When it comes to entertainment, there's lots of, we've got the YouTuber Boba Talks, who really believes in James Gunn, really trusts James Gunn, and he thinks, James Gunn is the second coming. And I'm not throwing shade or hate towards James. I'm not trying to do that. But you should never trust these people. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do, what they believe is right. And at the end of the day, when you look at this situation, you can't have two competing Batman properties. Not when you're developing a Batman movie, Brave and the Bold, for DCU. Think about it, right? The Batman 2 was supposed to be coming out next year, right? It was supposed to come out the same year as Superman. It's now going to come out, apparently, a year later. They've delayed production. Now, it was never feasible for them to start making it and for it to come out next year. I never understood those mathematics anyway, or that schedule. So that delay, again, is logical. But I just think because of the Arkham Asylum show moving over to DCU, I think we can surmise that Robert Pattinson will be the DC Universe Batman. As ridiculous as that sounds, you can't have two Batman movies coming out so close to each other. It doesn't really matter if if the Batman 2 was to come out in 2026 and Brave and the Bold came out in 2028. It still doesn't work. You can't have two Batman movies so close together because you're going to dilute the property. So that's why I believe that Matt Reeves and James Gunn have come to some arrangement here. So how do I feel about this? Do I think that this is wrong? Do I think that James Gunn... No. From James's point of view, this had to happen. Because as I say, you can't have two competing properties. They're just doing to Matt Reeves, the Batman, what they did to Superman and Lois. He didn't want a competing Superman property. And it is difficult. I believe that Smallville wouldn't have ended if Man of Steel wasn't coming out in 2013. I think the CW needed Smallville, liked its Friday night ratings. It was good. You didn't have the numbers it had years before, but it was breaking records on Friday nights, which was a graveyard shift in previous years for previous shows. But I think Smallville would have continued in some form, I don't know what, if Man of Steel didn't come out. So they've never liked competing properties. And also when you look at Superman Returns coming out while Smallville was active, they believe Smallville being around was damaging for Superman Returns. I think Superman Returns was damaging creatively. I enjoy that film. It's a film of great moments. But it did have several issues as well. So, yeah, I do believe that Robert Pattinson will be the DCU Batman. I do believe that Batman 2 is Batman the Brave and the Bold. So, will it be called Brave and the Bold? What will it be called? I don't know. Is it still going to be Brave and the Bold? I don't know. All I can tell you is that the red flags are there. That there's nothing going on with this movie, right? Nothing's going on, which is suspicious. The Arkham Asylum spin-off, once part of the Batman universe and DC Elseworlds, is now part of DCU. You just have to pay attention. You just have to do the math, and the math is there to see. So this is my belief. I'd love to know in the comments down below what you think about this, but that's what I believe is happening. Because as I say, you can't, I said it from the very beginning, you can't have two separate Batmen. It doesn't work. You know, these multiversal things simply don't work. There's only one Superman. That should be something that helps this movie. There can only be one Batman. Now, what they should have done from the beginning was, if they were going this way, is make their intentions clearer, but they haven't. So I do believe that that's what's going on. It will be interesting what the fan reaction will be. I think someone like Boba Talks will be quite angry, feel betrayed. But I think at the end of the day, common sense has to come in. And unfortunately for Matt Reeves' The Batman universe, it kind of coincided with James Gunn coming in. And at the end of the day, someone has to say, hang on a minute, because James Gunn could have easily said, let's not have a Batman in my universe. But he wants a Batman in his universe. Now, Robert Pattinson came off very well in the first Batman movie. It would make sense that Gunn would want Robert Pattinson to remain as Batman and use the Batman movie as canon and make the Batman movie DC Universe canon. We never saw a Superman in that movie, so it's easy for Corin Sweat to be Pattinson's Batman. I think some people will be angry about this. Some people will be ecstatic about this. I think look, it's sad because it won't be what Matt Reeves foresaw it in a lot of ways, but it still will be. I think it will be more of his vision. So that's what I think is going to happen. And like it or not, I think it makes sense because you can't have two of them. You cannot have two Batman. It does not work, everyone. It doesn't work. And really, you can't have two Jokers either. And I don't see the day where, Joaquin Phoenix becomes the DCU Batman. I would imagine that this will be the last kind of thing that Phillips does, unless it makes so much money that they just keep it in DC Elseworlds and say, do as many as you like. I think money talks, doesn't it? And bullshit walks in this world. If the Joker Folie à Deux makes enough money and breaks enough records and, it sounds like another cracker. So I think, could be the only DC Elseworlds situation. And so, yeah, there's something definitely going on because Brave and the Bold, and I never believed, as you well know, that Andres Muschietti was directing this movie. It was merely an attempt to create some hype for his The Flash movie. And of course, it didn't work. I don't like what he did with Ben Affleck's Batman. I thought the costume was shit and embarrassing. I really did. I think he did a good job with Keaton's Batman. Clearly more of a fan of Keaton's Batman. They really wanted to get him right. And they did get Keaton's Batman right. The only problem with Keaton in the movie was that he's really, really old and it's hard to believe he can do half the things that he does. But you have to suspend disbelief at the end of the day. But I don't think Muschietti will direct this movie. It's more than likely that Matt Reeves may direct this Batman movie. But yeah, I think Brave and the Bold and the Batman 2 are now the same movie. And it's going to be part of DC Universe. Now, James Gunn has not admitted that. He's admitted that, Matt Reeves doesn't want that, but I still think it's weird that Matt Reeves agreed to the Arkham Asylum spin-off becoming part of DC Universe. So I think he's had to bite the bullet here and bring in his universe into DC Universe. Because if that isn't the case, let me promise you something. The Batman 2 and Brave and the Bold can't coincide. Two Batmen being released, consecutively 2 or 3 years around each other isn't going to work. It can't work. It is not viable. It's simply not an idea they even had. Before Gunn came in, there was one Batman. That was it. And, I think the way Hamada's DCEU was going, we were going to have a Batgirl and not a Batman. Because I think maybe Batman died somewhere along the way. I don't know what they were going to do in the end with, Michael Keaton's Batman. But for me, that if you look at it, and some people will attack James Gunn if this is the truth, I feel that you can't have two of them. You have to decide what you're going to do. And I think at least this way that, and the rumor makes sense, doesn't it? If he's getting notes from Gunn and DC Studios, it would say that his Batman is also part of DCU. Because if it was part of DC Elseworlds, then Gunn really wouldn't be giving him notes. You can bet your bottom dollar that Gunn isn't giving Todd Phillips notes. Because what Todd Phillips would do would screw them up and shove them up Gunn's backside. That's what would happen. You and I know that. Because that is its own thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I would absolutely have a fucking orgasm if Phoenix's Joker was going to be part of DC Universe. That would be genius. But again, you can't have two Jokers consecutively. So I think that's what's going on here. I think Matt Reeves, the Batman, Robert Pattinson will be the DCU Batman. That's what I believe. With what we're seeing, it makes perfect sense. I can't see this not being a thing. I know it sounds out there. It sounds like something that wouldn't happen. It's something they're going to continue to deny. But I think Gunn understands, and I think Matt Reeves probably understands, that there can't be two Batmen. And something had to happen here. And I believe with Arkham Asylum being DCU, it makes sense that the Batman 2 and Brave and the Bold are both a DC Universe movie. As I say, it will be very interesting how the fans react if and when this is announced.